And now, members, I have personal testimonies that were sent to our office when people learned that we would be speaking against this bill today and asked us to be their voice in this chamber. This is from a young woman named Erica, and it's titled My Story. When I was young, I knew the older sister of a friend that was violently raped and was forced to bear the child. The young woman was a college student. One night, the rapist entered through her sliding glass door and raped her brutally and left her battered. And as she healed, she discovered she was pregnant. Because abortions were illegal, she had to suffer every day with the awful memories of that night, and she eventually dropped out of school. It was a nightmare for the entire family. When she walked down the street, people would whisper about her being a rape victim. At the grocery store, people would congratulate her and ask questions about her pregnancy, always reminding her that she was carrying the rapist's fetus. Rape can happen to anybody. As a mother, I cannot imagine forcing my child to endure that hell. The idea that the Texas government, my daughter can't decide with her doctor and family how to handle her most important decisions about her own body sickens me. Thank you, and she signed it. This is from Patricia from Bel Air, Texas. Dear Senator Davis, thank you with all my heart for standing up for all of us. It has been heartening to see so many wonderful Texans fighting for Texas women these past few days. Your courage is particularly inspiring. It's way past time for Texas women to declare, "Don't tread on us," and mean it. In 1972, about 130,000 American women obtained illegal abortions or self-induced abortions. When I was in college, one of my friends almost died of an illegal abortion. We aren't going back there. We cannot allow the extremist minority, propelled by ignorance, misogyny, hypocrisy, political showboating, and the unconstitutional desire to impose their personal religious views on others to control what women do with their own bodies. The hypocrisy is particularly brazen. The same fanatics who want to force women to bear babies they don't want and can't care for lose all interest once the fetus is an actual born child. These are the same people who are trying to cut funding for food stamps and further restrict Medicaid eligibility. Apparently, they don't realize that once a child is born, he needs food and basic medical care. And what about the libertarian mantra that we need to get government out of our lives, which somehow fails to apply when it comes to the most personal and private decision a woman may need to make? The government has no right to take my guns, but does have the right to force me to have a baby I can't care for? Please. I believe with all my heart that the real sin is not to have an abortion, but to bring into this world a child whom you know you cannot care for properly. We see the tragic consequences of that all around us. Children abandoned, neglected, or mistreated because they were never wanted or who had parents who were simply incapable of caring for them. I have 3 beautiful daughters. I want them to live happy, healthy lives and to have children when the time is right for them. I want them to control their own destinies. Please keep fighting for them, Wendy. With much gratitude and respect, Patricia. From Ellen. Thank you so much for speaking for me and millions of other Texas women about the Republican attempts to dismantle women's health care. When I was 17, I was raped on a date. I didn't know what had happened to me, let alone what to do when I wound up pregnant. My only thought was to kill myself because I didn't know any other option available to me. Thankfully, I had a smart, wonderful mother who took me to have an abortion. The entire experience was horrible, but I cannot imagine what it would be like under the circumstance that Texas now wants to make women undergo. I made a decision to save a life, my own, and it was the most important decision I've ever made and will ever make. Thank you, Wendy, for allowing me to tell my story and continuing the fight. From Patsy, please be my voice. I have never needed an abortion, but this should be the woman's choice. Sorry, God nor government got her pregnant, and therefore neither, in my opinion, enters into the decision. A woman's body is just that, her body. Therefore, she should be able to decide on pregnancy issues. It's not that I believe in abortion. I would hope women would try to prevent a pregnancy before it happens. However, hormones being what they are, pregnancies happen, and it should be the woman's right to decide if she wants to give birth. One hopes that there's a good guy involved who wants to be a good dad, but let's face it, that's not always the case. Thank you for what you're about to do to speak up for women in Texas. From Joyce, would men want women to make the major choices about their lives and bodies for them? I don't think so. Why then do these Republican men think they are better qualified to make choices for women than the women themselves are? Men say they want liberty. Why then do they want to rob women of liberty? These men are acting and speaking out of arrogance, serving their own narrow and possessive self-interest. Do they really think women don't know this? It is time for men to shut up and let women make their own choices about their own lives. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was right. Everything that the King of England did to men during colonial times, the Republican men in the Texas Senate are doing to women now, and more. Signed, Joyce. And this is from Dale. My story is of my first wife, who I met in my senior year at North Texas. She had a troubled childhood and was probably abused by an uncle and perhaps by her father. But for many years, I did not know that. What I did know was a girl who was a talented writer and a passionate person. I was too young to know that she was troubled by things I could not then imagine. After graduation, I took a job in Dallas, and after a while, she came to live with me. I think I wanted to marry her then, but she did not want to commit to that. And after about a year, she left me and went to UT in Austin to study. For a while, we were not communicating much, but we did write to let each other know where we were. She was going to classes, living in a house with a group of other students, and working in a clothing store in Hancock Center. That was 40 years ago, and there was a lot of experimentation going on. She tried LSD and had flashbacks for years, and she probably had other drugs as well. At some point, she was impregnated. I never knew whether she was raped or not, but I think that the odds are good that she was. By the time that happened, we'd been apart for over a year, and I was living in Galveston. She came to me desperate with the story of what happened to her and the confession that she had had an illegal and botched abortion done by a country doctor for $300. She went to work the next day, and her fetus came out in a public restroom and was flushed down the toilet. When she got to Galveston, she was ill and upset, and in a few days, she was anemic from internal bleeding. I didn't understand what was happening, but got her to UTMB, and she survived. The good thing was that it brought us back together, and I was able to care for her and marry her. I won't go into what happened next, but the point is that in those days before safe and legal abortion, her story was not uncommon, and many girls who were not lucky died because of unsanitary or inept procedures. I don't know if this story will help you in your talking. A person who did not know Mary Ann would write her off as a dissolute young woman who did drugs and had sex when she should not have, and perhaps not a good role model. But even then, a civilized society should have treated her better. And when abortion became legal, we thought that humanity had come with it. Maybe there is no way you can tell this story to the Senate, but I want you to understand what things were like then and what happened. And what happened to girls like her, and why we cannot let things go back to the way they were. Good luck and many thanks for your courage, Dale. From Angela. I am fearful of raising my 1- and 3-year-old girls in an environment where the government eliminates all but 5 clinics in the entire state, where women are allowed to make the most personal of decisions about their reproductive health. Where is all the paternalistic, faux health and safety concerns about vasectomies? Why should vasectomies be simple outpatient procedures when they pose such dire health risks to unsuspecting, uneducated men? Doesn't such an invasive procedure mandate similar restrictions on clinics and doctors for the health of men, of course? Angela.